Hello, my name is Hunter Davis, and I'm here presenting my eProfolio, Switching Directions in Education. It's about my transition to the other side of the desk. So to begin, I want to go with a quote. We do not need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside of ourselves already, and we have the power to imagine better. This is from one of my favorite authors, and the one that transformed my imagination and my ability to learn, J.K. Rowling, in her speech to the Harvard commencement in 2008. In this quote, she's trying to tell everyone that our meaning in life is to be able to imagine and be able to aspire to more and to be able to improve the world that we live in. And we don't need magic. We don't need these kind of things. We have the ability to do it ourselves. And I kind of relate this quote back to the idea that I began my ability as a learner with reading her books and being able to see what it meant to learn and what the purpose of it was for. Just to give you all a little bit of fun, here's an old picture of me. I'm a little kid right here. It's a nice tie, right? And then here's my family. But I guess what I want to go into is my origins. I'm from a very small county on the eastern side of the state, Kingman County, Virginia. Here's a historical map of it. It's very rural. There's not much there. Our biggest store was a Food Line when I was growing up. But the big point of it is my humble origins. And it created a new experiences for me about learning about different people's stories. So in the images here, you see we have here's an old Civil War encampment photo. We had multiple Civil War campaigns move through. We have Indian tribes located within my county's boundaries. The courthouse was built in the 1700s and still is operating today. The big purpose of what I'm trying to explain to this is I come from an area that is built upon its history. Our heritage is a part of that history. And in that learning of my heritage and being able to focus on it, that is how I grew up as a learner, how I grew up as a student. I learned that the importance of learning is through being able to know its purpose, know its story. And through these origins, I managed to see the bigger picture of how I related to life. And some of this way is through my location. I was very centrally located to areas like Richmond and Washington, D.C., Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown. And this is where my love of history kind of grew up, being able to see its connections, its purposes. But I never really was a great learner until I became literate. And that's something I grew into when I was about a 6th or 7th grader. Here's a state map, and once again, King William. I went to Kingman County Public Schools, grew up in education, and learned a lot of things about what it meant to be a student, what it meant to be a good learner. And one of the things that I always will look back to is great teachers, passionate teachers, teachers that loved their subject and loved being there for their students and given their time even beyond the classroom to be able to help their students learn. I had many teachers sit down with me after school trying to show me how to do math work when I didn't want to do it. Having teachers sit down with me to go over books to make sure I understood their purpose. And I had many teachers, kind of joke with me to get over the fact that, learning is supposed to be a fun thing. And they showed me what it meant to have fun in learning. So I ended up graduating in 2008 from King William High School, 18th in my class, and decided to go on for further education. But I actually didn't want to be a teacher at the time. I wanted to be an architect, and the best school of architecture was, in fact, in Blacksburg, Virginia, here at Virginia Tech. I applied to be an architect and got a rejection letter. But I did get accepted here, and I was a university studies major, and I had to think for myself for once, going, I don't know what I want to do now. My original idea was to be a historical preservationist and work as to restore historical buildings through architecture. But I had to think, what do I want to do now? And one of the first things I said is, I love history, and immediately decided, let's go into the history program. So I arrived here at Virginia Tech, and it immediately was accepted by the Virginia Tech community, and found myself adapting to a new way of living in a larger setting. And over a period of a few months, I started getting involved in the history program. And after a year, I started to think, what exactly is my purpose with this degree? What do I want to be able to accomplish with this? Do I want to be a lawyer? Not really. Do I want to be in politics? Absolutely not. Or do I want to work in a museum? And I said, that'd be fun, but what else can I do with this? And the last option, and I literally say it as the last option that kind of occurred to me is, I never thought, maybe I want to be a teacher. And I had past teachers kind of erupt in my mind, teachers who had made an impact on me and changed my life. And one of those, and many of those, and I called one of these teachers up and asked her, why do you enjoy teaching? And she said, because I love kids. I love being with kids. And it reminded me of the times that I spent working with my youth group, working with under my grade students when I was tutoring at my high school. I thought, I see myself as a teacher. And within a week, the history program has sent out an email about an interest meeting for the social studies education program. And I said, that's not destiny. So I ended up going to that meeting and found I was way behind. But I focused, I put things together, and within 2.5 years graduated with a degree in history. I probably sent emails to Dr. Hicks almost every 3 months. I probably saw him at least once a year, and he made sure I was on track. But regardless of the fact, I got into the program. And then I had to begin my new setting, and that was beginning the switch. And the images you see here on the board is a journal that I've kept throughout the process. And mostly this journal was for purposes of learning inside the classroom. But before doing that, I had to go through the first semester of grad school. And the big purpose in that is to begin the transition of the mindset of being an educator, of learning some of the strategies, learning the purpose of why we're there. And my first class was Teaching in American Society with Dr. Garrison, and how fun I had in that class. It was an eye-opening experience to show me what exactly it meant to be a teacher within a school setting, and being able to look past the students and seeing what the bureaucracy behind it, the learning standards, being able to adapt to all that. And it was an interesting process. But at the end of that semester, I still thought, do I really want to be here as an educator? And it took until hitting my first field experience to really know what it meant. And I walked into my first day, and I remember writing this down in the journal. I'm here to observe. This is going to be fun. And my teacher looked at me and says, "Ari, I know you look a little uncomfortable. Just going to let you sit in the back of the classroom and observe." Later that day, he said, "I need you to go administer a read-aloud test with this student." And immediately, I hit the ground running. I was on my feet and working. And yes, I made mistakes, but I learned to grow from those mistakes. I reflected in this notebook about how I could grow from those mistakes, and I reflected on my blog from some of the mistakes that I'd made. And this gave me the ability to look forward to being an educator in the planning process, and not only just the mindset, but the actual the mindset of creating for these students. It's not only just being prepared in that regard. So after beginning the switch, I began becoming Mr. Davis. Within my student teaching this past spring, I was assigned to a classroom in Salem, Virginia's middle school, civics and economics. And I found myself teaching 96 students over various different backgrounds, some of them with IEP, some of them with 504s, some of them lower achievement, some of them higher achievement. And I found myself beginning to see my identity as a teacher and seeing my real purpose, and that is making effective change in everyone's lives every day in any way. Making interactions with students, making connections with them, being able to create learning that is individualized for every single student, making sure that they feel comfortable in their classroom setting and feel, like they're a part of the classroom, not that they're just sitting there and observing. That's the crucial part, that something I've learned as becoming a teacher is being able to create a growing learning experience with these students.